This is a big day, especially for the youngest competitors who get to auction off their animals and hopefully make some money for college. And for one unlikely champ, today was a record breaker. 15. Yeah. In the auction ring, the best animals take home the biggest prizes. And usually, the bigger the animal, the more money made.
She's a sweetie.
And then you have Natalie, a goat that just 4 months ago was the scrawniest one in the herd, and named Natalie because she was as big as a gnat.
Even when she was smaller, out of the pen, I knew that she was the one I wanted.
But Heidi Barkley worked with Natalie until she doubled in weight, and then surprised them all to win top goat at the farm show.
We didn't expect this, but she turned out pretty well.
Now it's time to see what that win is worth.
I'd say probably somewhere between $2 and $3 grand is the typical amount.
But Natalie, as you heard, is not the typical champion goat.
Yeah, you're so cute.
So her last time in the ring with Heidi will be anything but ordinary.
Ready? Let's go.
Okay, here we go.
The bids rolled in, shooting up so quickly that as Natalie's price went up, the tears on Heidi's face came down. Tears of happiness, sadness, and then disbelief. And the price kept going up.
Total $7,700. $7,700 in a new farm show record.
An historic haul.
Come on, Natalie.
For an animal that defied the odds. And proved that sometimes all it takes is a lot of work and dedication to become the GOAT.
Here, sweetie. There you go. There you go.
The greatest of all time.
See ya.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much for coming.
Rarely are funerals happy occasions.
It's the best news I had all year.
That's right. That's right.
But thank you for coming.
But rarely does a family wait as long as the Hackenbergs have waited to hold one.
They must be feeling pretty elated by this time.
Elated, excited, relieved that after decades of not knowing where he is, Stella Knepp's brother Walter is home.
It's like a miracle. You know, I still can't grasp, that it's really happening.
Private First Class Walter Hackenberg was drafted into the Korean War in 1951, not long after it started. A day after his unit landed, it was attacked, and Hackenberg was taken to a POW camp where he turned 23 and died. And all these years later, 66 of them, his family was resigned to the fact they would never see him again. They even placed a tombstone for him on the family plot, with nothing buried below.
So this is a wonderful day.
But to his family's surprise, his remains were identified in August and brought back to his small childhood church where his sisters and headstone were waiting.
Please accept this flag in appreciation for your loved one's faithful service.
A celebration of a soldier and the long wait to get him home. In Snyder County, Matt Barcaro, News 8. What would your neighborhood look like if one day it disappeared? And not just that everyone moved away, but everything in it, the houses, sidewalks, even most of the roads, wiped from the landscape, erased, and then overtaken by weeds, as if it was never even there. That's what happened to Centralia. The streets used to be lined with stores here, and the roads lined with cars on the way to the coal mine. But that coal mine, which had powered Centralia with jobs and opportunity for a century, ultimately turned into the furnace that fueled its demise.
Oh, that was a step. That went up to the house here. The house was a pretty good-sized house.
Mike Clover used to live here, 220 East Park Drive. But that road and the houses once on it no longer exist. Torn down in the 90s after Mike's family and his neighbors decided to leave. To get out of the town that was burning from below.
You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know if you're going to have the ground open up on you. You didn't know what was going to happen the next day.
In 1962, firefighters in Centralia were burning brush, cleaning up ahead of the town's Memorial Day parade. The fire by accident burned its way underground and ignited a seam of coal. Centralia was never the same.
The fire company would come up and they'd take the top off of these and they would pump water in them to try and extinguish the fire.
But the water did little to douse the miles of smoldering coal. The underground fire burned not far from this cemetery, and even decades later, people who lived here say you could see smoke rising from underneath the headstones. And that smoke, filled with plumes of carbon monoxide, hung around parts of Centralia like an eerie fog. And so one by one, families packed up, and their houses came down. Centralia lost its government, most of its property, and its zip code. A town of more than 1,000 people when the fire sparked is now less than 10. Holdouts who sued the state to stay. The others who stay have no choice.
What the town looked like and what it looks like now, it's shocking.
Signs of abandonment are everywhere. The highway that used to run through Centralia was rerouted, and the original road is now a canvas for vandals. Graffiti Highway, as it's called. It offers one of the only bursts of color in a town that's as gray and dull as the smoke that choked it out. The rest of Centralia, though, is largely forgotten, which makes Mike Clover's old yard really stand out. Even though he doesn't own the land anymore, he comes back every summer to mow it. He does it to honor his grandpop, who first owned the house here and who worked in the coal mine up the street. 220 East Park Drive, one of the last parts of Centralia hanging on, as the fire below still smolders. In Centralia, Matt Barcaro, News 8. Over the river and through the woods sounds like a much easier travel plan some days than to wait in line at the airport. And the day before Thanksgiving, it can be doggone stressful, navigating the crowd, security, and delays.
It's like a Rubik's Cube, it just changes and moves, so we just got to go with the flow.
So that's why some travelers in the Harrisburg International Airport terminal were doggone surprised to see in the sea of passengers a pen of puppies.
He's so cute.
Here, just in case someone wanted to pet them. Pint-sized stress relievers for what can be a hectic day.
Beats having a scotch and water.
One by one, travelers put down their carry-ons.
I think I'm gonna melt.
To pick up one of the pups born just a few weeks ago and destined to become service dogs. Felix here and the other yellow labs will be going to the kennel on Monday for a couple days for their temperament assessment. Then they'll be paired with their puppy raiser families on Friday. But truly, they're already getting a jump on their service work.
I've never had a pet, but this is awesome. It's the closest thing to love.
Calming down passengers and airport workers alike with a cuddle and a kiss.
Especially after the drive, yeah. It was a little bit stressful, so he helps.
And winning over skeptics.
I usually stay away. I got allergies and stuff, so I usually try to stay clear from them. I'm not too pet friendly, but this guy's a cutie.
So this really doesn't have to be a chaotic travel day after all, when you just let your family and friends fly and sleeping dogs lie. At HIA, Matt Barcaro, News 8.